there still appears few people coming in, so we will just give them a few minutes and then we will start with our morning. As per Leanne, it is now 12 o'clock. We will not be late. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Anita Engelbrecht, the HR manager here in Space Science Hermanus, part of the biggest SANSA group. And I am so honored to have been the person to be asked to do this today for Leanne. John reached out to me and he said, listen, we want a gathering, but we don't want a memorial and a whole religious thing. We want to celebrate her life. So today, on behalf of Leanne's family, most of them are sitting here in the front, and John, her husband, I would like to welcome all of you here today, as well as all the people online across the world. And when I'm saying across the world, you'll be amazed about how many people have contacted us from literally across the world. We all had different relationships with Leanne. And the one thing that makes us all equal today is that we are here to celebrate her life and that of a phenomenal woman. Even while fighting this terrible, terrible cancer, she never lost her drive and her hope. She never gave up this hope because she knew she had family, friends, and colleagues that cared so much about her and that supported her through this difficult battle. She was a strong woman. I think everybody would vouch for that. She was strong. She did not want anybody to feel sorry for her, and she fought with courage. She was decisive. She was decisive in her work, but also when she had to decide on her treatment and going forward with that, she made the most difficult decision that anybody could make, but she made that decision. That decisiveness is the one thing that earned her the respect of every single person. So everybody respected Leanne for the fact that she can make a decision, and if it was the wrong decision, according to anybody else, she would rectify it and make a new decision. So her love for her work, the people around her, that's the family, friends, colleagues, the whole kituti, and most of all, her love for animals will be remembered forever. We are blessed by the memories that we made with Leanne. And we all have different memories, and we all have our favorite memories with her. And I've decided that I have to share with you today my last interaction with Leanne. At the point that I was asked to go and see Leanne, she was in ICU and she was not allowed to receive any visitors. Not because John didn't want people to go and visit her, but because she was so frail and she was so compromised that the doctors in the hospital decided that she should not see anybody. That drove me nuts, as it would have anybody else, but she asked for me and said that I've got to come and talk seriously with her. So John said, Anita, come on. So when I got there, the first thing she said to me was, Mrs. HR, she hardly ever called me Anita, if ever, Mrs. HR, you've got to make sure that John is taken care of. That was the only thing in her mind, was John must be taken care of. And I immediately knew what she meant is the practical stuff. The make sure that you take care of the insurance and the logistics. I also think in a way that that might have been her last instruction for me to do my job. So that was Leanne. Because right up to the end, that's her concern, is work. Work, and things must go right. And that was amazing. And her care for John, that was in her mind. Then we spoke about where she is in the process of dying. She knew that she was dying. She didn't wonder about it. And when I asked her about it, I said, you know the way that this is going. And she said, yeah, I know. I said, and? She said, no, I'm at peace with it. It's one of those things. I said, but are you okay? And she said to me, do I have a choice? And that's the reason why I'm telling you about my last interaction with her. Leanne used those words, you have a choice. I want to say against me for 12 years. Every time I cried about my family in Pretoria and got to be in Hermanus of all places. Now it's changed people, I've been here 12 years, but in the beginning it was hard. She'll keep on saying, you've got a choice, Mrs. HR. And I'll say, I don't have a choice. I'm the breadwinner, I've got to look after my husband, I've got bills to pay, can't find a permanent job in Pretoria, so, yeah, right. I've got a choice. No, I don't have a choice. And she said, you've still got a choice. She went as far as to say, you can sell your house and you can sell your car, but you've got a choice. Okay. And I would use that against her sometimes. That I must admit. You know, I used to throw back people's sayings and say, right, you know, you've got a choice. But what I want to leave with you today is very, very important, what she meant by that. While you breathe and while you've got your health, you've got a choice. Make your choice. It might not always be easy, might feel like it's impossible, but you've got a choice. Use that opportunity and make your choices. We chose to make today a huge success. The whole Sansa team that helped to put this day together made the choice to make it work. And even if some things go wrong, it's okay, because we made the choice to try our best, because it's the last thing that we could do for a friend, a colleague, and a boss. So that's my little piece that I wanted to share with you. And as you would see on the little program that we gave you, the pamphlet, we're going to have a few people that will bring tribute to this absolutely amazing woman. Some of us, maybe I should share it with you, have got so many pills in that we can keep it together. Some of us don't have. And if we do show emotion here in the front, whoever it might be, it's because we really, really care so much. So the first person that I would like to come up to the stage is the Sansa CEO, Mr. Humbulani Mudau. Humbulani, if you can join us, please.
Good afternoon. I just want to say to the family, Mr. John Wilcroft, Leanne's father, Mr. John McKinnell, Leanne's husband. It is a difficult time for us as the space agency. And it was very difficult for me as I was preparing to come here and address you this afternoon. um, because I couldn't find words that could describe um, Leanne and the experience that I've had over a number of years. For those who may not know, I have worked with Leanne before I joined SANSA and before SANSA was created. And therefore it was very difficult for me, but let me try. And I just want to say to the family, friends, the SANSA family, as well, that I'm here, and we're going to go through these together. And as Anita said, if we have to express ourselves because of the pain that we're feeling, we should do so. This afternoon, I would like to honor and celebrate a life of an exemplary leader who is Leanne. In a realm where leadership, expertise, and dedication converge, our esteemed colleague, Leanne, stands as a beacon of inspiration. Her remarkable journey has been one of unwavering commitment, exceptional knowledge, and profound impact across diverse domains in the science, technology, and innovation sector in South Africa. At the helm of a portfolio encompassing fundamental and applied research, including magnetic technology and an expansive ground-based instrument network spanning Southern Africa, Antarctica, and various islands, Leanne has demonstrated unparalleled vision and acumen. Her ability to navigate and excel in such diverse domains attests to her multidimensional brilliance. Women in science play a pivotal role in fostering inclusion, diversity, and development both in South Africa and on a global scale. The presence of esteemed women leaders like Leanne in a scientific field brings diverse perspectives, innovative thinking, and balanced representation that enrich research, knowledge, and problem solving. By breaking down gender barriers and advancing their careers, women scientists inspire future generations to pursue scientific path and challenge traditional norms. Dr. Leanne was at the forefront of this movement. Recognizing and promoting women's contribution in science is crucial not only for achieving gender equality, but also for driving holistic advancement that address a broader spectrum of societal needs. Embracing the talents and insights of women in science is imperative to create a more equitable, prosperous, and harmonious world where scientific progress truly serves the betterment of all. The hallmark of Leanne's leadership lies in the establishment of the African Instrumentation Network, a testament of her foresight and commitment to advancing scientific infrastructure throughout the continent. This network, spanning the diverse landscapes of Africa, reflects her dedication to uniting minds and fostering collaboration in the pursuit of knowledge. In the realm of operational space weather, Leanne's prowess shines as she ensured the understanding and prediction of space phenomena critical to our modern way of life. Her remarkable insights have shielded technological systems, and paved the way for future advancement with a global team and counterparts attesting to her achievements. Under her guidance, the Santa Hermanos team has evolved into a hub of science engagement. Leanne's leadership has ignited curiosity, inspired minds, and brought the wonders of science closer to the hearts of many. Her efforts transcend mere education, serving as a catalyst for a lifelong love of learning. Moreover, she recognized the importance of skills development on a grand scale, extending her influence to every corner of SANSA. Her commitment to honing the talents within the organization resonates in the growth of every individual she has touched, contributing to a collective rise in expertise and excellence within the entity. Today, we all gather to honor Leanne, a true luminary whose impact spans realms, whose leadership shapes the future, and whose dedication sets an extraordinary standard. As we reflect on her journey, let us remember her as a trailblazer, a mentor, a symbol of what can be achieved through unwavering dedication, ceaseless learning, and the passion to make a difference. In celebrating Leanne, we celebrate not just her achievements, but the ripple effect of her contribution that will continue to inspire generations to come. And I just want to say to the family, we've lost a leader, we've lost a member of our executive committee, and I can tell you today that she's irreplaceable, and that we'll continue as SANSA to honor her legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbelani. Next up, we will ask Mr. John Ward, our Acting Managing Director of Space Science here in Hermanus, to come and do his tribute, please. Thanks, John. They're making it easy today because the father is John, the husband is John, and our acting MD is John. So I've decided to call all the men John today, then I'm kind of safe.
Ladies and gentlemen, family, friends, and colleagues. Today we gather to remember and honor the remarkable life of Dr. Leanne McKinnell. A gifted academic, a visionary leader, a mentor, and a friend. Her passing has left a void that can never be filled, but her legacy will live on and continue to inspire us. Leanne's impact on the scientific community has been profound. Usually within these walls, I call her Dr. McKinnell, but today, she's Leanne. After nurturing her own academic career at Rhodes University, she joined the Hermanus Magnetic Observatory, which later became SANSA. She played an instrumental role in the creation and growth of the space science program during the 12 years that she served as this facility's managing director. But her commitment extended beyond these walls and our country's borders, ensuring that Africa's voice was heard on the global stage. She also trained and mentored several students, many of whom are running their own successful programs within Africa and also globally. Leanne and I worked together on many projects for SANSA, a lot of which had ambitious goals and timelines. It started over 10 years ago with the delivery of the first fully digital HF radar in Antarctica, a flagship instrument. Leanne always guided us towards projects that focused on building capability within the organization and for the nation, and that stood as platforms for human capital development and knowledge creation, and were key to a sustainable future. She was passionate about science engagement and training students. The HF radar has produced a phenomenal amount of trained engineers and research outputs, a global leader. And Leanne was instrumental in making that happen and for championing the efforts that keep the radar operational. So when Leanne came to us and said that we should operationalize space weather, we all knew that it would be one mother load of a task, but there was absolutely no hesitation in that room because we knew we would succeed. That is the kind of leader that Leanne was. Her crowning achievement, the Space Weather Center, stands as testament to her dedication. In just 3 years, on time and within budget, she led the development of the space weather capability that now benefits our nation. Leanne was the one who encouraged me to grow my knowledge of the space industry and who mentored me in leadership. During my early days as a manager, I would often volunteer to drive Leanne to or from the airport if the driver wasn't available, as this would get me one-on-one time with her to better understand the business and to seek her guidance on challenges that I was facing. I grew to enjoy her company and her counsel very much, and it became a long-standing thing between us. And in fact, during her last trip that she made earlier this year, I didn't even have to drive her, I just got in the car anyway. So it's a lot of Leanne's advice and influence that has shaped the leader that stands before you here today. And I will miss those times very much. It wasn't just her professional accomplishments that defined Leanne. She was an animal lover and she adored her 2 dogs. I know that she also enjoyed listening to music and had a fondness for baking and for sewing. Her love for her husband, John, and her family was immeasurable. She was extremely genuine, and she had a great ability to engage and to connect with people. It was a quality that I greatly admired about her. Over the last few days, I've received numerous messages from colleagues, former students, collaborators, people from all over the world whose messages all echoed the sentiment that Leanne was a positive and guiding light in their lives, that her legacy will be carried forward by the students she mentored, the colleagues she inspired, and the countless lives she touched. Leanne's journey on this earth may have ended, but her impact will forever resonate in the space science community and beyond. Let us remember her with smiles, knowing that her spirit lives on in the work that we do and the facility that she helped shape. My sincere condolences to John, to the McKinnell family, and to the Williscroft family. We all feel your loss. Rest in peace, Leanne. Your legacy will live on forever and light our way.
Thanks, John. Next person up is Mr. Rahul Hodges. Rahul is the Managing Director of Space Operations in Hartbeespoort, and I also call him Leanne's partner in crime on the executive committee. Rahul.
you can see me behind this monstrosity. But I asked Leanne why it's so high. She said it was built for a reason, so the people don't have to see me. So yes, Anita said it. I've been part of Leanne's life for about 17 years. Colleague, friend, acquaintance. My sincere condolences to John. All his family and the people online. Together we faced many challenges. And we've been through a lot. Yeah, we've been through a lot. In 15 years, we've had numerous exco meetings. Leanne would have done the maths. Every 2 weeks, 54 weeks a year. But I want to tell stories. I took many flights with Leanne. Every flight, she would be on the plane first. My trait is to be last. So we agreed. The minute we get to the plane, she would go her way, I'd go my way. I'd see you on the other end. That I'll never forget. I still don't know why we want to be first, but she also doesn't know why I want to be last. Another crazy thing we did is we decided to do an MBA. Now, picture this. I'm a totally operational person. She's a researcher. Good combination. She's 10 years younger than me. So from research, I knew absolutely nothing. Okay? I couldn't put a paper together even if you asked me to. So I first had to learn how to write a paper. And Leanne knew a bit of operations, but she first had to find out how to do the operations. So we have a perfect combination. The problem is she couldn't her MBA in 18 months. It took me 3 years. But I made it because I was pushed. And we would have meetings every morning at 7. And we would discuss what's coming for the day. And that was when she was still at home, before she came to the office. And some evenings we would have meetings after work to find out whether we were successful in convincing other people to go our way. So it's the wrong thing to say here today. I mean, there's a lot of people listening to me. But that's how the organization grew. And over many years, we managed to get the direction, the operations. Remember, we were the first in the new SANSA. We formed what SANSA is today. We were part of that. And to get certain things done, you need allies. You don't do things alone. Another story is we traveled together to Japan. Now, for those that know, it's quite far from here. So you first hop, skip and jump. I go from Johannesburg, Leanne comes from Cape Town, so we see each other in Singapore. Singapore to Japan. And now it was dignitaries in Japan. And we're all a bit nervous. And so we go out for, we got invited to a very special dinner. You have to, those who have been in Japan, it's not, they're very particular. As we walk in, you have these beautiful ladies dressed up in these fancy things, and they say, please take off your shoes. Okay, so I rip my shoes off, take my socks off, put it in the thing, and I go inside. And Leanne says, Raul, come here. I said, what's wrong? She says, you can't take your socks off. So, put my socks back on, and they give you little fancy slippers, and Leanne's gone, and as I put my shoes in, I say, here's Leanne's shoes. So now in my mind, she counted this, okay? 4 from the top, 4 down, this is where Leanne's shoes are. And that's how she would work it out. She wouldn't recognize her shoes, she'd rather count it. So I took her shoes and put it somewhere else. Okay. We came out, I put my shoes on, and I stood about there. And I see Leanne standing in front of this box. 4 shoes are gone. Eventually, everybody took her shoes, and she stood back and she said, okay, here's shoes, and she looked, and it's her shoes. She put her shoes on, and she walked straight to me and grabbed me under the arm, and she said, Mr. Hodges, are you never going to grow up? And yeah, people know me like that. I probably will take a while to grow up still. We talked, I told some stories, I've got many more, I'll keep you busy for the day if I have to. But one of the traits, when we talk about traits, every person has a special trait in life. Leanne's was meticulous. If I sum her up, she was meticulous. She would take the minutes and rewrite the executive minutes every time. And before you could act and change the minutes, it was done. Okay? And she would point out all the mistakes. Leanne had values: ethical, trustworthy, integrity, leadership, honesty, accountability, compassion, loyal, respect. If you have any more, please share them with me. Lastly, Leanne has left us with awesome memories, a lasting legacy, a path to grow. Build on it, and you will be blessed. Thank you.
I've told you he's a partner in crime. I did not lie. Next up, we've got Dr. Mpho Tsisapungu. If Mpho can come up. And Mpho has requested me to stay with her here, so if you're wondering why I'm standing here, Mpho is really, really having a very, very hard time. She will give you some background of where they're coming from, I hope. So I will be standing next to Mpho just for a little bit of support.
Okay, thank you. Today we are celebrating the life of a legend, Dr. Leanne McKinnell. I would like to thank the family and the Sansa leadership for the opportunity to share my experience of working with a remarkable woman whom we are celebrating today. I first met Leanne in June 2006. during a winter school program. She used to interact with students during break times, asking them what their future plans are. Fortunately, she asked that question to the right person, who was myself, busy looking for something to do until the end of the year. I was not looking forward to going back home. I was eager to keep myself busy because at that time I had completed my undergraduate degree. At the time, I was determined to further my studies, and that opportunity was presented to me by this remarkable woman that we are celebrating today. She supported my idea to pursue my studies, and I was under her supervision at honors level in 2007 until end of 2009 when I completed my master's degree. I wanted to start immediately with my PhD in 2010. However, she had other plans for me. Her plans was to develop me from A to Z, if you know what I mean. Before even getting my examination results back, I was presented with a contract as a space weather assistant in January 2010. This is where my space weather journey begins with her. At one point, I thought my career was coming to an end when I had to go on leave for a few months, not knowing that she was desperate to keep me in the organization as much as I was desperate for the job. She made me to sign the permanent contract before I go. But still, she was uncertain whether I will return. She immediately found a capable young man by the name of McKinnell to fill the gap while I'm away. He went through 1 month training and suddenly was thrown into the deep end to start rolling because there was no time. However, an international expert, Donald Dunskin, was also brought in to support Tebogo. With her full support, I moved from an assistant to a practitioner and now the head of space weather. I would like to confess today that I am where I am because of her carrying me all the way and her strong faith in me. She had a very strong faith in me, believed in my capabilities more than I do. This is the journey we have been through together, and I would like to share some of the legacies that she has left behind. Leanne's passion for science. During her early days in research, she was heavily involved in the ionospheric propagation studies, using ionosphere measurements. This was introduced to me as my job in 2006. to scale the anagrams for her and her student. You can see the passion for science that she had. It made her to climb the antenna. That is Leanne. This is Leanne climbing the antenna of the Innocent in Grahamstown. This was her passion for science. Innocent in Grahamstown was like her baby at the time, and she used it to her utmost potential. She knew that Innocent data is what I can offer to the international research community to form a research collaboration and work together for a common goal. That is why she was part and parcel of the well-known International Reference Ionosphere Group. This is where she made most of her friends as we know it today, including Dalia Borisova from Czech Republic, who was her best friend. And I have a message from her. It is a huge misfortune and loss for us all. We here in Sapporo are having a hard time dealing with such a great loss of a great woman, colleague, scientist, a friend, a manager. She was an inspiration for us, a representative of an extremely hardworking, honest, and aspiring person. It is a great pity that she closed the door of her life so unexpectedly and prematurely. Please pass on our condolences to Sansa, colleagues and staff with pain in our soul, Dahlia and Peter. Close quote. She was also involved in HF radios and sometimes pulled me along to some of her meetings. I remember attending one of the South African Radio League meetings in Cape Town, where her father John was organizing. I felt very lost in a group of retired people who seemed to be very knowledgeable about what they are talking about. At that time, everything was going over my head. However, she wanted to share her passion of science with me, hoping that I will be as passionate. So, this is one of the IRI group that she has, and some of the few pictures of the early days, and this is her best friend, Dalia Borisova. Even though she did not have her own biological children, she was a mother to many of us. She had the love and the care as a mother for her children. I am a witness of such care. She felt so sorry for me that I was away from my parents during one of the Christmas holidays. And she invited me to her home for a Christmas lunch. She will ask me several times, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" Just normal for mothers who care. Her care was shown to many of us, including our forecasters. She went the extra mile to look for a house mother for them, something that might be world record breaking. Have you heard of any company hiring a house mother for new employees? This was the first of its kind, and she was trying to express the love and the care she has for her children. And you can see all these photos that she has the care of a mother. Her drive for skills development and human capital development. Her passion and drive for excellence was within this woman. At one point during her research career, she supervised up to 7 or 8 students at master's and PhD levels, training her students, myself included, to work very hard by submitting monthly reports, having monthly meetings to discuss your results. Can you imagine reading theses, chapters, and reports of so many students? She was an incredible and hardworking woman. With her being busy with students, she did not forget the fun part of taking all her students out for coffee at the end of the month. She was always eager to inspire and excite the young generation. She and her husband would spend time here at Sansa on Saturdays during open days, just to demonstrate by example how exciting this field of science is. One of her recent proud moments in skills development was the successful forecasters training. She will always brag about moving from just 2 people in the center, that was myself and Devoka, to 8 forecasters. And she won't forget, she will add to say, by the way, all of them are women, except one male. Poor Devoka. She used to have regular chats with the forecasters to find out if they are still happy. What a caring person she was. Leanne took pride in being in this space weather, and she really felt that she owned the space. She was a huge advocate for space weather in all spheres of her life. She always wanted to make sure that our voice with regards to space weather is heard globally. I remember recently, after COVID, when there was a hybrid meeting of the UN COPIAS STSC, the space weather statement was prepared and sent to Asanda. I asked Asanda if she can read the statement since she is there in person. And she said to me, "Uyamas mama kalok." When it comes to space weather, it is either herself, you, or Rendani. So I think Asanda was starting to understand how close space weather is to Leanne's heart. So I ended up reading the statement visually. This is the kind of ownership she was having over space weather. This is the sense of ownership I'm talking about, and she took pride in it. At the end, one of the forecasters made a description of how this generation of space weather has grown. She said, for them, they are the children of space weather. These are the forecasters. And I am the mother of space weather. And Leanne is the grandmother of space weather. Recently, at the US Space Weather Workshop in April this year, during a side meeting with the NOAA Space Weather Prediction Center colleagues, she told them openly that Mpo knows that with space weather activities, she takes the priority because space weather is close to my heart. That was Leanne telling the US colleagues. One time, she said to me, if I was not the MD of this facility, I will probably be heading the Space Weather Center. There is also no doubt that Leanne was strong and a tough leader. So these pictures, you can see how she is advocating for space weather. She was a big advocate for space weather, and space weather in South Africa is known worldwide, and Leanne is in the forefront. And I'm happy to say that now she has trained some of us and some of the forecasters to take this path of space weather forward, and hoping that we will keep the legacy that she has left. Some of the legacy of impact that she has left. She was the first woman to become the MD of space science, and the first ever to manage to attract 3 ministers in this Hermanus facility, plus DG coming here several times to appreciate the work she and her team are doing. I think she had started mastering how to talk to the ministers, and she had strong belief in that if she has decided on something, it's difficult to change her mind. And she was still hoping to bring the president into this facility. Who on earth can think of that? Only extraordinary people like Leanne. She was an extremer and a go-getter. I guess now the entire Department of Science and Innovation knows about space weather and how important it is. I see even on Twitter, when we tweet about space weather, our parent, which is the DSI, they retweet our message so they understand space weather and they want to see the association with this facility. And this is all because of her work. So she was a big advocate for this facility, and more especially on space weather. And if you can see this was the first minister to come in 2010 for the first opening of the Space Weather Center. And then this is the second minister to come to do the upgrade opening of the Space Weather Center. I think this was 2016. And here we have the third minister to come last year. And she was hoping that the president would be into this event as well. But you can see how satisfied she was to be able to bring the minister and making him understand and value the importance of space weather. So it all started here, and then it continued into tending the soil when the hard work started. And you can see with all the progress on building this facility, and then there's this space weather model, and then bringing the DG here to see what's happening and where their money is going. But I guess McKinnell may confess this, she was a hard woman, and she was having now a buzzing word to say we have managed to complete this project on time and on budget. And I think McKinnell was working very hard with the support of Leanne. Grabbing the opportunity as it comes her way. So in 2017, an invitation was sent to South Africa to bid to become one of the space weather information service providers for aviation sector as mandated by ICAO. Rendani and I remember this moment very well while we were at the European Space Weather Week in Belgium, when she sent us a long document for us to respond positively to this invitation. Emails were sent, emails went back and forth when we were trying to convince her otherwise, and that we do not have enough capability and capacity to go for this bid. However, as most of you or most of us know her, once she has decided on something, to change her mind is almost impossible. What we are seeing today, SANSA being an ICAO designated space weather service provider, is a result of her extreme effort in pushing the boundaries beyond our imagination. She always wanted to push boundaries beyond our means and with no reservation. For some of us, we'll be taking some reservation, but she was an extreme. The forecasters may remember this question being posed to them. Do you want to be first? She told them that if you want to be first, this is the place for you. And under her guidance, she wanted them to be the first space weather forecasters. But she told them to make their choice, as Anita has mentioned earlier. They have the choice, but the way she will talk about space weather and the passion she had, and she will persuade, or you will be convinced that this is the place for you. I hear other people saying that the sky is the limit. For Leanne, the sky was not the limit. Her vision was probably in space and beyond, and even beyond galaxies, where some of us can't even imagine that there are endless possibilities. These are some of the achievements she has been making. The Science Center being accredited, the ISO certification, and there are many other visions that she had for this facility. As you can all see, that she has achieved so much in such a short period of time. She was a woman of action. She wanted things to happen yesterday. And I'm sure where she is sleeping right now, she is a happy woman and satisfied with her achievements. My greatest wish for the leadership of SANSA is that we name this building, this center, after her. we are missing her already. And your smile. May your soul continue to rest in peace.
Thank you, Mpo. We are now moving to the family and their tributes. And I would like to call on Dr. Kate McKinnell. I know Dr. Kate has also flown in from very far. She is Leanne's sister-in-law and John's sister, Dr. Kate.
I'm sure I'm not alone in wishing I could have told Leanne how grateful I am for so many things. Most of all, I'm grateful to her for having transformed John's life with her steadfast love and loyalty, which he returned with equal devotion. Thank you, Leanne. I'm grateful to her for always prioritizing family. Her mum, dad, brothers, nephews and nieces were on her mind every day, and she gave love and support at every opportunity. Years ago, she horrified locals by driving the length of Britain alone to see me, whom she barely knew. And every time I visited South Africa, she took time to make sure my trip ran smoothly and that I felt welcomed and cared for. Thank you, Leanne. She was instrumental in arranging for my mother to move to Hermanus so that John and my mother were able to share several valuable years of closeness. When my mother became increasingly frail, Leanne played a huge part in ensuring she received the care she needed, finding a home for her, taking her shopping, clothing, and caring. Thank you, Leanne. I witnessed her massive devotion to her science and to her team at Sansa. She would be answering emails and fielding calls before the sun rose, over weekends and during holidays. She nurtured her team with the dedication of a mother, contributing way beyond her remit without the apparent need for recognition or power. You are irreplaceable, Leanne, as a wife, daughter, sister, aunt, friend, scientist, colleague, and dog mum. Thank you, and rest knowing you live on in our hearts.
Thanks, Dr. Kate. We appreciate that. Next up is John Williscroft, Leanne's father, who will be joining us on stage.
Okay. Well, thank you all for making time to come to Leanne's farewell. I know it's difficult these days to get to such events. Leanne was quite a lady. When she was young, she was a disciplinarian. Ask her brothers, they know. And the greatest joy she got from anything was to make a plan and then to work on it and complete it. As a child, she never gave us any problems whatsoever. She was ideal. When it came to matric, I had to think of a way to motivate her. So in my clumsy way, as she's walking down the aisle to the front door, I said to her, if you don't pass, don't come home. Well, the family nearly killed me. But what was surprising was Leanne's response. She said, okay. And life continued that way. You can imagine that we made lots of plans for when we get older. And Leanne was always attentive to us. She'd come and visit us, come to Johannesburg, visit us, just to see we're okay. She talked to her mother on a weekend on Skype, and she made sure that I behaved myself. It was a big surprise when she passed away, because we thought that it would be ourselves passing away, and then Leanne would be alone. But as time went by, we found that Leanne was a very conscientious person. One of the things that happens is that she's working in the Marnus and we only see her now and again. And of course, Mother gives her a big hug and Father stands in the queue. So what happened is we developed quite unintentionally, and it happened by accident, a little wave, a little flat wave that said, I love you too, Dad. I'm off to here. On the day of her passing, we went to see her and she was in a terrible state. She was in a coma, but struggling to do something. And it was difficult to know what she wanted. And as I walked into the ward, I automatically, without thinking, gave her that way. And guess what? I got a very precise flat way back. She knew I was there, and she knew we were coming for her. Now, Leanne, Mother and myself will always love you. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. We had the joke between me and John when I met him for the first time when Leanne was still at home and she was ill. And he said to me, it's no use you talking to me because I'm deaf. So I said to him, remember, I'm married to a deaf man. So that's my one recommendation, is that John gets himself some hearing aids. He can't hear me now, so he can't get angry. But that he gets himself a hearing aids, because we found with my husband that you don't miss out on so much because you can't hear. But he said that he will go and listen to the YouTube video, and then he'll hear my suggestion and hopefully take it to heart and then be angry at me. Last but not least, to bring a tribute to our friend, our colleague, our family member, my ex-boss, the rest of the Space Science people's boss, is her husband, John McKinnell. An amazing man. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you all for being here. It really is hugely appreciated. I'm sure you can understand that it's kind of difficult to be last in a list of people addressing you here, because everything that needed to be said about Leanne has already been said. You all know what a wonderful person she was, how good at her work, how dedicated, and I'm sure you feel my loss to some degree too. I do want to make a couple of thank yous, even though, of course, I'm now followed by the official vote of thanks, because, of course, there's one person who won't be included in that thank you, and that, of course, is Anita herself. Thank you so much for arranging this, all you've done, all the support you've given me. And I want to mention her right-hand man. You know, some of these ladies do have a right-hand man lurking in the wings. Her right-hand man is her husband, Andre, and I want to thank him too. I for a long time, have reached the conclusion, or had the conviction, that the world would be a much better place. We have so many problems in the world today. My conviction is that the world would actually be a far better place if it was entirely run by women. I'm glad that raised a little chuckle, because I want to say that for me, dealing with this terrible tragedy has been alleviated by humor. I think it is so important to be able to find humor in the darkest time, and to actually use that as a vehicle to healing and to survival. And I want to extend a special thank you to Grenville Mills for rushing down from Joburg. He was hardly here. There was hardly any delay when he heard the news that Leanne had actually passed. And his humor and support is what has allowed me to be standing here in front of you now. And he's not the only one. There's another Mr. Morum that can take some credit, and there is Giorgio Lombardi who can take some credit. Thank you. So I'm as I said, so much has been covered already as regards my wonderful wife. I just want to share with you a couple of anecdotes, which for me are slightly humorous. I hope you maybe agree. So the first general area of this particular anecdote is sport. Now, Leanne was not a follower of sport. She didn't understand sport. She inherited that from her dad, I think. And I remember an occasion in the business class lounge at Oliver Tambo Airport when it was particularly hectic. The place was packed. And she and I were there. We came in kind of late, unusual for Leanne. And every seat was already occupied. But we found a place to sit and have a few snacks or whatever, where there was it was a big table, and there was a whole lot of guys there discussing the rugby. And this was on the occasion of a Springbok All-Black test, which I think I'm hazy. I can't remember whether it had just taken place or if it was just about to take place. But anyway, that was the sole topic of conversation. So after a couple of minutes, Leanne piped up, and it just happened that it was in a bit of a lull, so everybody heard her. And she said, "I know it's rugby, but who's playing?" Yeah, then another occasion, similar, we shared some marvelous experiences traveling. And for me, one that really sticks in my mind was she and I were flying from Port Elizabeth to Johannesburg to visit family, and we found as we boarded the plane, first, of course, we were at the front of the queue. Well, we were first for the cattle class. We were not first for business class, and the business class seating was already occupied by the Proteas. The South African cricket team were flying back to Johannesburg after a test at St. George's. So we, I filled Leanne in on who these guys were and so on. We get to Johannesburg, and we had to climb on a bus to be moved from the plane to the terminal. And similar thing, we came into the bus and every seat was taken. So immediately in front of us as we came in, there was John T. Rhodes, and he, being a gentleman as well as probably the top all-rounder in the entire world at the time, sprang up and said to Leanne, here's a seat. Leanne says to John T. Rhodes, no, I can't possibly take your seat. My husband has told me you're way more important than I am. Yeah. Then continuing on the travel theme, we did some wonderful things traveling, and some of the names you've heard mentioned earlier that are perhaps joining us via the YouTube streaming. People like Dalia Brishova. Leanne and I were on a trip that included a visit to her, and it was at the time that Leanne was doing her postdoc in Austria, Graz, Austria, which was a wonderful experience both for her and for me. I didn't spend the entire year with her. I just had the opportunity to have some holidays to go and visit her. And during those holidays, Leanne, with her typical dedication, took no time off the work. So everything we did together, we had to squeeze into the weekends, and which worked fine. I had the weeks to recover. So we did these frenetic things, and on one occasion we were catching a bus somewhere, and because of being Leanne, we were at the bus way early. And I don't think the driver had even started the engine. It was at the sort of terminus, and the bus was there. This was all in the dark. And we were a bit puzzled about why we were there and no one else was. So Leanne said to the guy in German, because, yes, a little digression. Typical Leanne fashion, she prepared herself for this postdoc in Austria by learning German. And like me, she was kind of linguistically challenged, so other languages were a big issue. But she really put effort into it. She hired a teacher from one of the schools to give her German lessons after hours. And this teacher got pretty frustrated because Leanne kept popping up with Afrikaans words instead of German ones. Teacher said, I thought nobody in Grahamstown spoke Afrikaans. And anyway, so there we are waiting for the bus, and Leanne goes up to the driver and says in German something, which I certainly couldn't follow. This driver kind of pauses a moment and then says in perfect English, says, you've just asked me when I'm going to rise up like a loaf of bread. Of course, she was asking when the bus would depart. Yeah, similar thing. We were doing a one-day trip from Graz in Austria, where we were based. We were traveling the breadth of the country to go and walk for a few minutes along the Danube. And so this was an epic journey, and it was all taking place in one day, because in Austria at the time, at any rate, it was like the old South Africa. Nothing happened on a Sunday, so one couldn't do this trip over a weekend. It had to be a Saturday trip. So we set off in the dark, and we actually returned at the end of that day towards midnight. When we got on the first train in the early morning, Leanne handed the ticket. She'd prepared it meticulously. She'd worked out this itinerary, because it was a complex trip. It involved many train changes. And it just so happened, well, perhaps because it was a Saturday, that they were all the milk trains, you know, the trains that stopped at every station. So there was a hugely it was a long list of places that we were passing through. And I could see the conductor when she presented this ticket to him, looking extremely puzzled. Leanne says to him, "It's simple, we're just traveling from Graz to Graz." Because that was it was a round trip. Okay, my final little story has a sad tinge. Many of you will be quite surprised to see me wearing a suit, because it's literally the first time I've worn one in Hermanus, and I've been here 12 years. But the thing is, and sorry, the reason this is kind of a joke is that you bear in mind that I'm 12 years older than she was. And so we always assumed, of course, that I would go first. So Leanne jokingly made me, or asked me to keep a promise, and that was that even if I only wore a suit twice in my life, the first time must be at her wedding, and the second time must be at her funeral. So I'm so glad that this is not a sad occasion like a funeral. It's actually a celebration of her wonderful virtues, but of course it's tinged by sadness. And I do actually have a piece of paper. I would like to just read a parting quote. A good friend of mine is with the Church of England in England, and his job is to train vicars. Interesting one. He's a spiritualist more than an out-and-out Christian. And I know that there are many scientists in this room, and I think that scientists have a hard time being spiritual. And Nick, my friend Nick Helm in England, understands my lack of religion. And so he sent me a quote to help me to deal with the current situation. And I think it could be helpful to others who are cut from the same cloth as I am. This is a quote from Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who's evidently a very bright man. He said, "There is nothing that can replace the absence of someone dear to us, and one should not even attempt to do so. One must simply hold out and endure it. At first, that sounds very hard, but at the same time, it is also a great comfort. For to the extent that the emptiness truly remains unfilled, one remains connected to the other person through it. It is wrong to say that God fills the emptiness. God in no way fills it, but much more leaves it precisely unfilled, and thus helps us preserve, even in pain, the authentic relationship. Furthermore, the more beautiful and full the remembrances, the more difficult the separation. But gratitude transforms the torment of memory into silent joy. One bears what was lovely in the past, not as a thorn, but as a precious gift deep within, a hidden treasure of which one can always be certain. Rest in peace, my beloved Leanne."
Now it's my privilege to do the thank yous. And there's a huge lot of people and companies, colleagues, all that has to be thanked. But from John and Lynn Williscroft and all of us here, I would like to start with John McKinnell for being with Leanne every step of the way. He literally took those words of in sickness and in health, and he made it practical. He was there literally every step of the way. The nursing staff in the ICU told me that they had to send him home in the evenings between 9:30 and 10, because by then they would have given Leanne the necessary medication. But because she got so panicked, he literally stayed there till she got quiet and she fell asleep. They said they've never ever seen a husband stay in ICU for so many hours. So John, thank you for that. And like he said, behind every woman there's a man, but behind strong women there's men. And in John's case, very quiet and humble, he was the rock behind Leanne. She could never do what she's done without you, John. Whether it was that she'll phone you, no matter what the time, day, night, weekend, John, the ion is on. Then John must rush and he must come and fix it. John, we're building a radar. We're not doing it off the shelf with the Australian version. We're doing it ourselves. John had to come and sit and do it. And he did. There was days that he just came in and brought her some lunch. Someone referred to days, long time ago, that he would bring in lunch and they would sit in the garden and have their lunch together. That's the kind of man that John is. He was never in the forefront. He was always there to hold up her arms, even when she couldn't hold them up anymore. I know it was hard, John. Very, very hard, this road that you had to work, to take. Also to keep up that mask of, I'm okay. That is the challenge, and it's not easy. May the memories that you have of her in time overshadow today's sadness. Many thanks for all the prayers, and I must tell you that Leanne said at one time when I said to her, Leanne, there's so many people praying for you. And she said, you know what? I need every one of them. So thank you for the prayers. She knew where they were coming from. The kind words, the WhatsApp messages, the phone calls, the emails, the gifts, the flowers, the food. That kept the family going. For John and Lynn for coming immediately to Hermanus to come and help and to be here. I know how hard it was not to be able to see her. But even though there might not be religion involved, there was some higher power that told John to go and fetch you at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. And my first response when I spoke to John, when she passed away, I said, what about Lynn and John? Did they see her? And he said, yes, they had the opportunity to say goodbye. Thank you for being such amazing people to motivate Leanne to being what she was and to have had her, because John wouldn't have had a wife and we wouldn't have had her if it wasn't for you and John, Lynn. Thank you so much. To the family and all the friends, for all your love and support and care. John and Lynn and other John, really appreciate that. Dr. Kate, thank you for being here all the way from the UK. I was the first person to say, no, I don't think John's sister will come. It's far. It's for a celebration. Who does that? And you did. That makes you amazing. Then, Grenville Mills, a lifelong friend of John. Thank you for creating the WhatsApp group and keeping us informed. The support and jumping on a plane and coming to John, to come and be with him and to support him. Damn, you're a good friend, and you're an example of a true, true friend. For many years, I hear, from when they were young and they're not so young anymore. To Sansa management and staff, thank you for the years of support in allowing Leanne to actually live out her dreams, as well as having the celebration of her life today here on site. in a building, in a center that was her dream. We know there's a number of you who made donations, personal donations for the day, and we thank all of you for that. That's also our colleagues and our friends that's in Pretoria and Hartbeespoort. Thank you to the Space Science SEM team and the finance team for all the arrangements that you made for the food and having us all being together afterwards socially. Special thanks to the SEM people who also made the keepsake bookmarks. Nicole, your creativity is amazing, and we thank you for that. Communications. There's so many things that I've got to thank you for the pamphlet that you've put together, for the slideshow, for getting the message out there. We really appreciate you handling all the logistics. ICT for the streaming and the music that John so gracefully gave to us. Don't know how many of you actually could hear the music properly, but it was quite a lot of piano music. And I don't know how many people know that Leanne could actually play a piano. We haven't, neither nor me have played for years, but she could. Facility services for all the assistance that we got from you. Then to the Mediclinic staff, including the ICU staff, doctors and specialists. Your dedication did not go by unseen. Thank you. To Nashka, who will take care of a silent cremation, as per Leanne's wishes. Thank you. We also have a number of SANSA suppliers that we need to thank because they gave us donations today. Travel with Flair, who sponsored the 2 bouquets that we've got in this room. Gilbert's Catering, who did all the food for us at cost price. Gilbert is one of the historic people in Space Sciences lives. He was a trainee of a place called Learn to Earn. Did his catering training there, started a little coffee shop, and then went into catering, and he's now doing catering, and he's got his own takeaway shop. So to do all of this food at cost price must have cost him a lot. So thanks to Gilbert. Matole Investments sponsored cold drinks for us for today. When they heard that she passed, they immediately wanted to do their share as well. There's numerous people, too many to name, and John and I laughed when we put the sentence in because he said, oh, it sounds so lame. But that lame sentence actually covers everybody that we could not name personally. It's impossible. There were so many people that had to be thanked. So if we did not mention you by name, please know that every gesture, the love, the care, everything is appreciated and will be held in our hearts forever. We have to then give special recognition to Gail Overmeyer, Leanne's PA. You were always on call. You could read her daily demeanor and know when to call in the troops. She will run down the passage and she'll say, Anita, I think you must go and talk to Mama. Okay? And whenever I walked into that office after Gail's warning, Leanne would have needed that support. Thank you, Gail. I would like to call on Gail to come and hand over a personalized candle like the one that you've got on the stage for John as a reminder of the light that Leanne brought into everybody's lives. While she's walking up to hand over the candle, I will be lighting the candle. The communications people were rolling their eyes at me, showing me that the candle wasn't lit. But I do have a lighter. I'm not a smoker, so if I burn my fingers, I'm going to shout at the smokers. But we will light the candle, and the candle on the stage will be standing in our reception area, and it will only be blown out when we are ready, which might be never, but then the candle will burn down to its end. Gail, if you perhaps can come up and just hand John his candle. Okay, in lieu of flowers, John has requested that we give donations to Hermanus Animal Welfare in the honor of Leanne. He said that there's so much flowers at home that it's starting to get a little bit silly to have flowers when there's a better use for the money. So anybody who needs the banking details can contact us. If you do make a donation, you can use Leanne as the cross-reference so that we can in the end tell John what the contribution was. There's also a book outside on a little table with a pen. We would like to ask the guests to please write a message in there. We've already started pasting in all the messages from all over the world that we've received. We want to give that to John as a keepsake. For the SANSA staff on site, we will give you the opportunity to still fill in the book for the next week or two before we hand it over to John. But there's quite a bit of guests. If we can give them the opportunity to write messages in the book, it would be very nice. Then, with that, we are actually at the end of the celebration. We will not forget. We will always remember her. And I would like to thank everybody that attended in person today. It's really fantastic to see such a lot of people. And then the people on site, we will now join each other outside in the foyer for some eats and drinks. And that will be the end. And thank you for the people who joined us online.